Hi, and welcome to Python programming. I understand that you might be new to this field or you might be from the field of technology. Irrespective of where you're from, I want you to know that Python is the easiest language to learn as the codes will feel like you're writing commands in English. Learning this language has many benefits as all the new upcoming fields like data science in which you gather data, process it, manipulate it and generate results. Artificial intelligence in which you mimic human intelligence. Automation in which you replace repetitive tasks by writing scripts that do the tasks for you. Cybersecurity and much more all run under this programming language. Apart from this, you can also use Python to do some fun stuff like sending birthday messages to your friends on WhatsApp even while you're asleep, or tracking the price of a stock in the market, or even renaming hundreds and hundreds of files or converting these files to PDFs at the click of a button. I want you to know that irrespective of whether you have any prior experience or not, this course has been designed keeping in mind that none of you have coded a single day in your lives. Under this assumption, the course has been curated from a beginner's point of view and has been broken down into 4 modules: beginners, intermediate, advanced and the expert module, which move forward in difficulty as you progress across these modules. Rest assured, each module prepares you to tackle the difficulties that you will face in the upcoming modules. So all you gotta do is listen attentively, code along, practice the questions and the problems that have been provided so that you can make the most out of this course. This course will prepare you to completely solve problems using Python and choose a career of your choice in the fields of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, web development, cybersecurity, or whatever field you'd like. So I'm looking forward to seeing you learn this language and make huge differences in the world. So until then, stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at what is Python and at the same time, why should we use Python? Alright, so let's get started now. So first of all, what is Python? So Python firstly was created by Guido van Rossum and it was released in 1991. Python is an object-oriented programming language. So when I say object-oriented programming language, what do I mean? So this is for the beginners who don't really have any knowledge about coding and are just starting off. So object-oriented programming is a way of writing a computer program where you use objects to stand for datas. Alright, so when I basically say that, when you write a certain list of instructions for a computer, you're telling it to do a certain thing. That is called as procedural programming. Alright, but in object-oriented programming, the computer program uses objects to talk to one another. Alright, so that the data can be changed and the object can work in a certain way that the user will want. And because of this, it helps the developer by allowing the code to be reused by another programmer or maybe by other parts of the program. Okay. At the same time, Python is also an open source programming language, which means that it's freely available for everyone to use and anybody and everybody can use it. There's no payments, nothing to be made. At the same time, Python is an interpreted language. So when I say interpreted language, it does not need to be compiled. Okay, so there is a program, it's called an interpreter. And this interpreter runs Python codes and it can run it on any kind of computer, alright. So what this basically means is that the programmer can change the code and you can immediately see the results. Okay, so this also means that it is slower than a compiled language like C because it's not running a machine code directly, alright. So at the same time, it's a high level language. So when I say high level language, it's kind of like English only. So you can read it and understand what it means. So that way you can focus on what you want to do instead of how you should be doing it. Alright. At the same time, it's very easy to learn. Okay. Very simple programming language. Like I said, it's in English. So it makes it really simple. And at the same time, it's portable. So when I say portable, any system that was basically running C can also run Python. Alright. So that is what is Python. At the same time, we look at why Python? So when we say why Python, like we already discussed, it works on different platforms, right? So when I say different platforms, it can work on Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi, whatever you need. The syntax is similar to English, like we saw earlier. It's a high level programming language. So if you can read it, you can understand it very simply. Codes in a fewer lines. So like the very simple code, which is the hello world code, can be literally printed in one single line. That's how simple the codes are. So this syntax, the syntax that is available inside Python, allows the developers to write the program with very minimal lines of codes. Alright. So this makes it easier to maintain, manage, and like work with it. Then when we talk about the execution speed, it runs on an interpreter system. So what it means is that the code can be executed as soon as you write it. Okay, so what benefits you get out of this is that your prototyping can be really quick. So you can write a code, you can check immediately if it's right or not, and if it isn't, you can just immediately make the changes or corrections and move on. At the same time, it can be treated in a procedural way. You remember I told you during object-oriented programming that object-oriented programming uses objects, but if you have a certain steps that you're telling the computer to do or a list of instructions, that is a procedural way of working with it, right? So basically Python can be treated in a procedural way, an object-oriented way, or a functional way. Alright. At the same time, there are a lot of libraries that you can use which make your coding even more easier for you. Alright, so just some things to tell you just before we wrap up this lecture. These things will be good for you to know is that the most latest version of Python is Python 3, which is what we'll be using. Alright, Python 2 is there, although it's not very updated or anything. Other than the security update, it is still quite popular. But we'll be making use of Python 3. Alright, so that's that. And lastly, wanting to tell you what you can do with Python. It can be used for web development, can be used for software development, for mathematics, can be used for machine learning, where you can train a machine, right? And the machine will do stuff for you. That is where artificial intelligence also comes in. Then your audio and video applications, or if you want to create a gaming program, a networking program, a developer GUI, which is a graphic user interface. Like if you want to create like a desktop GUI's application, you can do that. And you can also work with complex algorithms in this. So all of these developments and all of these benefits that are there with Python make it a very versatile language, and at the same time you can use it anywhere and everywhere you want and really get a lot of benefits out of it. Alright, so this was it for what is Python and why do we use Python. Alright, so I'll see you in the next lecture, and that is where we're going to get started with the real deal. Alright, so see you. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to talk about Python IDE, and we're also going to have a look at how to check if your system has Python and how to install Python into your system if you don't. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to open your command prompt. So you'll go into your start menu and you'll write CMD for your command prompt. Over here, the first thing you can do is you can check what version is installed here. So what you can do is you can write py and it'll show you like this, as it's showing us over here, Python 3.8.2. Alright, so that's one way to do it. And the other way to do it is if we do Python space hyphen version and enter. So here too it's showing us Python 3.8.2. Now, in my system, Python has been installed, but if it isn't and you need it in your system, what do you do? So for that, you'll open Chrome, and over here, you'll go to python.org. Okay. So in python.org, this will open up to you. In this, we'll go to downloads. Based on whatever OS your system is running, you can select whichever you want. So I'm running Windows, so I click on Windows over here. This page opens up, and in this page you scroll down, and as you can see that the latest version is Python 3.9.0, which cannot be used on Windows 7 or earlier versions. Okay, so since mine was on 3.8.2, we can use this opportunity to upgrade mine as well. So over here we click on this link which says download Windows x86 64 executable installer. The file get downloaded. Once it does, you click on this and you hit run. Over here you make sure that you add this Python 3.9 to path. This way Python will get available to you everywhere. Now you just click on install now over here, agree, and once the installation is complete, Python will get installed into your system. Alright, so now that setup was successful, we can close this. Now let's check the version for our Python. Alright, so py, and as you can see, it's showing me that my version is Python 3.9.0. So you saw earlier that my version was 3.8.2, now it is 3.9.0. Alright, so that is how you install Python. After this step is complete, Python will get installed into your system and you can use Python. So there are two ways to use Python. One is that you can directly write into a notebook and save it as a .py file. But the best recommendation or the best method to work with this is to use an IDE. So before I talk to you about how to get an IDE into your system and everything, let's first talk about what is an IDE. So an IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Alright. So when I talk about an integrated development environment, we're talking about a software application that provides the computer programmer a certain facility or many facilities to develop your software. So there are many examples of a Python IDE, but the Python IDE that I prefer using is PyCharm, and this is one of the most popular ones right now. Earlier there used to be Notepad++, which was used heavily. So there were many other options available. So even Visual Studio Code could be used, but nowadays people are moving into this, which is PyCharm. So once again, to download PyCharm, which is your Python IDE, you'll write PyCharm in Google and you'll get this website, which is www.jetbrains.com. So we click on this first link. Alright, so this page opens up. In this, you have this download button here and you have another download button here. You can click on either of them. So I'll just click on this one. In this, you have two options. You have the professional and then you have the community option. So the professional option is for both scientific and web Python development, but we just want to do pure Python development. So we're going to go for the community edition, which is free and open source as well. This gives you a trial, but this gives you the entire thing for free. So let's click on download and your download will start. Meanwhile, while this is happening, let me just show you something. So this is good for you if you're a beginner. So this website JetBrain, it sends you emails in regards to educational materials, as you can see over here. You can subscribe to this thing. You can enter your email address over here, whatever it may be, like abcd@gmail.com, whatever your email address is, you can just enter it over here. And then you checkbox this, and when you checkbox this, basically you're just agreeing that your email address will be used by the website to send you educational materials about the product. Okay, so then you can just hit subscribe. I'm not going to hit it now. So now what we'll do is we'll wait for this download to complete. Alright, so our download's about to complete. So before that happens, I want to just give you an idea of what the other option is. Alright, so the other option is that you open Notepad, and inside Notepad you can just write your code down. Okay, so like if I just write a code, print hello world. Alright, so don't worry about this. This is going to be our next lecture. But once I save it, if I save it as on desktop, if I save it as whatever it is, let's say hello world.py. Okay, I'm going to change this type to all files and save. Alright, so now this is over here. And when I open command prompt, in command prompt, what I can do is, I can just go to my desktop. And over here I'll write hello world.py. Let me just rename this without a space. And if I run this, as you can see, it's saying hello world here. So this is how you can make use of a notepad to just simply write a program and directly execute it using the command prompt. But we're going to be making use of the IDE. You'll see how to do that. But let's go check if our IDE is done. Alright, it's done. So let's click on this. It's a simple step installation process. All you got to do is hit run, next and next and so on. So we'll hit run now. Yes. Hit next. Select the folder where you want to save it. I'm just going to move it to D because I keep having storage issues. So next. So here you can add a desktop shortcut if you want, and you can add whatever you need. So we're going to just add a desktop shortcut. We'll also add py associations to it. Then we can also add an update folder as project option. And if you want, we can add this as well, but we'll just hit next for now. Install. And now let's wait for PyCharm to complete installation. Alright, so we're almost done. Last couple of seconds. Okay, so I can just run it from here, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just hit finish. And as you can see, this new icon has showed up now. And we can double click on this. And your PyCharm IDE will get open. So, like I was trying to explain to you what an IDE is. So, an IDE basically consists of everything in one place. So, like the words integrated development environment. The word integrated development environment basically means that you can develop the entire thing in one single environment where PyCharm is your environment. This entire place is one place where you can develop the entire thing. And it is integrated. So when I say integrated, you have everything over here. You have your source code editor, you have your debugger, your compiler, interpreter, whatever you need. Everything is basically in one place. So your execution is faster and you don't need to do this whole saving process that we did for the notepad. Everything can be done over here only. Alright. So follow these steps that I gave you and make sure that you download Python into your laptop, PC or whatever device you're using. And along with that, also download PyCharm into your system, as this is the IDE that we are going to make use of while we study our Python. Alright, so that's it for this lecture. I hope you understood how to perform all the steps. So when we perform our exercises and codes, I want to make sure that you get all the knowledge. And in order for that to happen, you need to practice. So I want you to do one thing and commit to this. You practice while we're doing it over here. Alright, so that way you'll be more confident in regards to what is happening, how the code is executing. Don't need to rush through the course. Take your time. Learn each and every line. So when I write print hello world, understand that the print function does something. Like that, I want you to understand it on your laptop while you personally do it on your IDEs. Alright. So once again, thank you. See you in the next lecture. And in the next lecture, we're going to be looking at how we'll run our hello world program. So I'll see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be seeing how we can make use of Python to write a hello world code. So the first thing that we had seen earlier was to use the command prompt, right? So let's open command prompt. And in command prompt, if I write py, Python opens up, and here all I got to do is write print right, with an open bracket, double inverted, which basically declares your string. We'll be talking about strings and everything later, but you just have to write it like this and the bracket closed. Once I hit enter, you can see hello world got printed. This is how you use it in command prompt. We're not going to be doing this. I'm just trying to show you all the different ways with which you can write your Python code. So this was the very first method of doing it. The second one was to use Notepad, wherein you type your code over here, right? Hello world. And when you save it, you use save as. And when you save as, you gotta direct it to whichever folder you want to direct it to, like desktop in our case. Give the file name without any space, .py, which will be your Python extension. So all Python files are saved as a .py extension. And then you change the save as type to all files and hit save. Now your file has been saved over here. We'll go into command prompt. Now in command prompt, I'm currently at C column, users, and my name over here, but in your system will show your name. So we want to go into desktop. So I'll hit CD space D. I can write the entire thing desktop, or I can just press tab. Okay, and it'll show me all the folders that are starting with D. So I'll select desktop and hit enter. So we have entered the desktop folder, and here we'll just write Python space the name of your file, which is hello world.py, and enter. And as you can see, hello world got executed over here. Again, this is something you can use, but we're gonna make use of the IDE. So let's see how we do that. So when you start the IDE, if you're completely new, then these also wouldn't show up. It would be completely empty, and you'll basically be just seeing these three buttons actually: new project, open, and get from VCS. So what this basically means is you're just trying to create a new project. So a new project is nothing other than a folder which consists of Python files. So we'll create a folder here and we'll name it Python course. Alright, I'm going to keep this here and I'll click open now. And in open, I'm going to look for that folder. So inside my name, I'm going to look for desktop. Inside desktop, we have to select that folder over here. Alright, so as you can see the folder over here, you can also add the files inside it if there were any, but we're just going to select the folder and hit OK. Alright, so this is your IDE, and in this IDE, the Python course folder that you had just selected, which is this one, got added over here, and a main file got added as well. Okay, so all your folders will be shown over here. The files inside your folders will be shown inside this, and you can run multiple tabs of the file as well. To run the file, you can just go up here and click on run. And here, as you can see, a hi PyCharm has been executed. But let's not look at that right now. Let's try and understand this IDE. So in this over here, you're seeing main. If you're new to it, it would probably show add configuration. So let me just remove this first and show it to you. So yeah, as you can see over here, it's showing add configurations. So when you click on add configurations, you have this add new configuration button here. You click on this and you select Python. Inside this, you got to give it a name. So I'm just going to give it as Python course, so I know which configuration I'm using. And then I have to give a script, or the script path basically, which will be automatically directed to the project folder. And inside this, I can just directly select my file and click OK. Now here comes the interpreter. So the interpreter is what you downloaded. So if you remember, we downloaded the 3.9. So that means even in my system, 3.9 is not showing up. But let's add it as 3.8 for now. So you just understand what I mean. Hit apply and hit OK. So automatically this gets added, and when I hit run, the execution occurs. Now in order to add 3.9, we'll go into file, we'll go into settings. Inside settings, we go into project Python course and we'll select Python interpreter. Over here, you're seeing the interpreter to be shown as Python 3.8. But since we downloaded 3.9, in the drop down menu, 3.9 should have been showing up. If it isn't, then here's what you do. You go into settings and you click on add. Inside this, you go to system interpreter and you've got to look for the file where your Python was downloaded. So my Python 3.9, as you can see over here, was downloaded into this. So I can just select this, or I could select this 3 dotted thing over here, which is your file location, and then you select where your files are. Okay, but in my case, the interpreter shows up over here. I click on OK, and as you can see, 3.9 got added in now. Once this is done, I can hit apply and hit OK. Now once again, I can go into this, I can edit my configurations, and here I can change this to project default, which is 3.9, or just change it to 3.9 over here, hit apply and OK. Now let's see how we run a hello world code over here. So for that, we'll select our folder or our project where we're going to be working with our Python files. Right click and click new, and you can either add file, which will add a text file. But if you click on file and if you want to save it as a Python file, you got to name it as hello world.py. So you got to give the extension. Okay. So when you do that, only then will this come up as a .py file. If you don't want to do that, you just hit right click, new, and just select Python file and then just give it a name. So this way you don't need to save it as a .py and it automatically gets saved up as a .py file. Now in this, when you want to run your code, let me just shut this. Here what you'll do is you'll write print, and as you can see, this is giving you an option to directly select what you want to write in. So the brackets automatically come in, right? And then you type in your code. So this way you don't make syntax errors as well, because the IDE will give you an option. So here I've written hello world, right? Let me just do one thing. Let me send this to the next line and just add a code. This is basically a comment. Alright, so we're going to see comments and everything later, but just try and understand the hello world program. So I've written hello world, and now there are two options. First is you can directly click on this part over here and hit run. But when I hit run, if you're seeing, it's running Python course, which is basically the main folder. Alright, so the main file. But we wanted to run hello world.py. So you got to change this configuration. Okay, and you can add a Python configuration, and the script path will be hello world1.py. Apply and OK. So now when you run this, as you can see, it's running hello world. The other way to do this is, this is too long for you, is to just hit terminal, which will automatically take you to the Python course folder, and inside this all you got to do is write this name, which is hello world.py, hello world1.py, and enter. And as you can see, the code got executed. Alright, in order to clear the screen, you can write CLS, which is clear screen, and the entire thing will get cleared. Alright, so congratulations, if you've done this along with me, then you've written your first piece of code and executed it. I'll see you in the next lecture, where we're going to be looking at numbers and maths function. So I'll see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at numbers and operators. Before we move into that, I wanted to just clear out some basic stuff for you. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys is comments. So when you write a hashtag and then you write something in front of it, this basically is a comment. So what is a comment? A comment is basically something that you could either use to explain a certain code, or you could use it to make the code more readable or to prevent a certain execution. So when I say to prevent a certain execution, you already know that if I write print hello world and I try to execute this, you'll get an output. As you can see, hello world. But as soon as I add a hashtag in front, this gets commented out, and if I try to run this code, you see nothing is going to happen. Alright, so that is what a comment is for. A comment is basically something that you can use to make the code more readable. Okay, so in our case, we want to learn about numbers. So I hope you understood comment, but there's one more thing, which is a multi-line comment. So if you want to write comments in multiple lines, you just have to write something, then again add a hashtag and then a second line. Okay. However, you can have an alternative, which is something that is not really a syntax for multi-line, but it is something that you can use. So there's something called as a multi-line string. So you'll see this when we learn about variables and strings, but a string can be defined by using this, which is 3 double inverted commas. So when you write this and then you write like this, this is also a comment. However, this is actually a string, but because there is no variable, so there is nothing holding this as a value, Python ignores it. Okay, so let me run this. So one more thing I wanted to show you is how to run a code without changing these values here. So as you can see, this is print hello world, and I showed you how you can change it from here. However, over here too, you can either hit Ctrl Shift and F10 or right click and run hello world 1. So whichever tab you're in, that tab will get shown here. So if I'm in hello world, right click and hello world over here. Alright, so here I'm going to do Ctrl Shift F10 and you can see hello world came up here. Similarly, in this, if I do Ctrl Shift F10, you can see nothing came up here. That is because this is a comment. However, if this comment had a variable in front of it, then this would have shown up down here. There you go. So as you can see, it's showing us that this is a comment in more than one line. So this is because this variable was declared. That's why this got shown up here. If you do not declare this and you rub all of these out and then you run this, it will not show up. Alright. So I just wanted to show this to you because this is going to be important while you work with your code. Alright. So that was comment. Now let's look at numbers, which is the topic that we wanted to cover. So there are basically 3 numeric types in Python. So the very first type is the int or the integer, then comes the float, and then comes complex. So these are the 3 types of numbers that are available inside it. So let's see what all of them are. Alright. So simply put, if I take a variable x and this is a number, just 1 for example, this is basically an integer. If I say x is equal to, or y actually, because you already declared x, y is equal to 1.0, this is basically a float. Alright, and if I say z is equal to 1j, this is basically a complex type of number. So what do I mean? An integer is basically a whole number which can be either positive or negative. However, you cannot have a decimal point, and this number can be of unlimited length. It doesn't matter. Okay. Then comes your float. In float, there is this point, which is your decimal point. This is called a floating point number. So that's why we call it a float. This number can be again positive or negative, and it should contain 1 or more decimals. Then comes your complex. So when we talk about complex numbers are numbers that are written with j in it. where j is basically your imaginary part. So this is something that's quite extensively used while solving complex problems in mathematics, but this is what I wanted to show you. Now you'll try and wonder that how can we be sure that this is an integer, this is float, and this is a complex. So let's use something to try that out. So we're going to write print, alright, type for a, alright, sorry, x. Similarly, we'll write the same thing for y as well as z. Okay, so what this does, this type function basically lets you verify the type of value or the type of object that is there inside this variable. So we are trying to print the type for x, the type for y, and the type for z. So let's hit Ctrl, Shift and F10, and as you can see, it's showing us for x class integer, for y class is float, and for z the class is complex. So this could guarantee you that these three variables along with the values provided in front of them is the integer type, the float type, and the complex type. You're done with understanding what are the different types of numbers. Now we're going to look at how you can convert a certain type. So you can also convert something like convert a number from integer to float. Okay, and to do that, all you got to do is write the number. Suppose we'll write a as a variable and we'll say a is equal to float. Float of what? Of x, because x is basically an integer and we are converting x from an integer type to a float type, and to convert it to float we just write a variable, say what we want to convert it to, and write the value. So after this, if we print a and Control Shift F10, as you can see 1, which was x, has now become 1.0. Similarly, you can convert float to integer. To convert float to integer, you'll just write a value integer, which is int, and then y inside it. Again, printing this for b, Control Shift F10. As you can see, b, which was given an integer type for y, and y, which was an actual float value, has now become an integer type. And finally, you can convert integer to complex. To convert integer to complex, again, same thing, you just write a variable and say this is equal to complex and which number you want to convert to complex. So in our case, you want to convert x to complex. So again, I'll write print. Let me just do one thing. I'll remove these values so you don't get confused. And we'll just print c, which is our complex type now. And Control Shift F10. And as you can see, the value of c is now 1 plus 0j, which is actually the complex of x. And x over here had the value 1. As you can see over here, x is integer with a value 1 in it. And c converted it. Alright, so that is how you convert a certain number. Now let's look at the operations that you can perform on it. So you can perform multiple operations on a certain number. So let me remove all of these codes in fact. And let's take two simple numbers. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. Alright. So let's print A and B just to have a look at what we actually have. A and print B. Okay, Control Shift F10. And as we can see, we have 10 and 20, which is the values for A and B. Now let's look at math operations with it. So some of the operations that you can perform are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, exponential, and floor division. So I'm just going to show you a couple of them because I want to make sure that you guys practice as well. So let's see how you do this. So for addition, very simple, nothing too complex. All you got to do is write x plus y into a variable. Okay, so I can do one of the two. I can say x is equal to a plus b. Alright, once I've given x is equal to a plus b, and if I print x, Control Shift F10, as you can see, the value over here is showing as 30. Then we have subtraction, which is the same thing, just I'll remove the positive sign, make it negative, and run it. And obviously 10 minus 20 equals to minus 10, and the value shown up over here. For multiplication, you have an asterisk, which gives us the value 200. For division, you have a simple division sign like this, Control Shift F10, as you can see 0.5. For modulus, you have the percentage sign that you got to use, and modulus is the remainder that occurs. Okay, so that's modulus. Then you have exponential, which basically means a raised to b, and that would be 10 raised to 20. So running this, as you can see, 10 raised to 20. And then you have your floor division, which is this, Control Shift F10. Alright, so these are your final mathematical equations and operators that you can use. So I'm just going to write them down for you. So for addition, you will use plus. For subtraction, you will use minus. For multiplication, you will use asterisk. Division will be forward slash. Modulus will be percentage. Exponential will be double asterisk, and finally floor division will be double forward slash. Alright, so this was the simplest way to perform mathematical operations on any of your Python numbers and integers. Alright, so I want you to try this out. I want you to try assigning values to variables, changing their types from integer to float, float to integer, and so on. And at the same time, I want you to take two numbers and try all of these operations. Alright, so all you've got to do is assign a variable, alright, and give the sign in between. So just a quick thing I want to show you that I just remembered is, if I directly write print with the bracket and just write a plus b, okay, and I run this, that will also give me the same thing. Alright, so this is best if you don't want to assign another variable and directly print it using the print function. Alright, so that is it for numbers and math function. In the next lecture, we're going to look at the common errors that could be possible in Python and how you solve these types of errors. Alright, so once again, I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at the common types of errors that could occur in Python while you're trying to program. Alright, so first of all, why does an error occur? So an error in Python could occur when a certain statement is not in accordance with the prescribed usage. So that is called as a syntax error. Alright, so when I say that, you should understand that the interpreter immediately reports an error to you. So we're just going to make use of the terminal here because there'll be a lot of errors and I don't want to type here. So we'll just make use of the terminal. We'll enter into Python by writing py and we're in. Alright, so now let's look at the first type of error, which is your syntax error. So as you know, in order to print hello world, we had entered in these brackets, right? So if I don't write the brackets and I just write print hello and I hit enter, as you can see, it's saying that we have a syntax error. So syntax error is that kind of an error where the certain syntax is missing. Like as you can see, it's saying, did you mean this? So that is a syntax error. Then comes index error. So index is something that will be used in a list. So don't worry about what a list is. I'm going to just make a list here, but list is basically a list of numbers or anything. So like for example, we have a list which has 1, 2 and 3. So in a list, this value is the 0th position, this is the first position, and this is second. Okay, so if I asked for the third position, alright, so if I'm going to write L and to ask for a third position, I enter these brackets with this value here, 3, and enter. So as you can see, it's saying index error. The list index is out of the range. So the range only occurs between 0, 1 and 2. But I'm asking for the third value. That's why it's saying index error. Okay. Then comes module not found error. So this occurs when a module is not found. You'll understand how you can import certain modules in Python. So when you enter the wrong name of a module, it will say module error not found or module not found error basically. So let's import not a module. Enter. As you can see, it's showing us module not found error. So that's the module not found error. Similarly, you have something called as dictionaries. It's kind of the same as lists, but instead of just having values, you have key inside it. You have a key inside it. Like in this case, 1 is the key and the value for 1 is QWE, for example. Then I have a second key, which is, let's say 2, and the value for 2 we'll assign as this, and let's shut our dictionary. Enter. Similarly, in this 2, here 1 is the key which has QWE, 2 is the key which has WER. So if I ask it to give me the value for 3 or the key for 3, it's going to say key error because there is no key like that. Alright. Similarly, you have import error. So you saw the module not found error, right? So that was when I tried to import something called not a module. So similarly, when I try to import something from a certain module, so if I say from math, which is a module, I want to import cube. So I hit enter. You're seeing import error. Cannot import name cube from math. So although it's saying unknown location for math, that is because in my case, my math module has not been installed into my Python yet. Alright, so that is why you're seeing the import error. Similarly, you have iterations. So iterations is also something we'll cover in the future, but just try and understand this. So I'm making an iteration. I'm saving a variable with an iteration in it, which runs between 1, 2 and 3. Alright. Superb. Now, you can run through an iteration by just saying next and then entering the variable in which the iteration is stored. So I hit enter. As you're seeing, it's showing you 1. Similarly, if I do the same thing again, it's saying 2. Now again, I'm going to do next iteration. It's going to say 3. Now, evidently there's nothing after 3. But if I run next iteration again, it's going to say stop iteration. So this is the stop iteration error, where the error is thrown when your next function is going beyond the number of items that are there inside iterator. Then comes your type error. So what is a type error? So you know that we have strings, right? So when I say strings, for people who don't know what strings are basically anything that is not a number. So like A, B, C, D is a string, or even 1, 2, 3 could be a string if declared in that manner. So to declare a string, you use either a single inverted comma with anything inside it and closed with another single inverted comma, or double inverted comma, whatever you want, and double inverted comma. Alright. So evidently I can also declare a number as a string. Okay. But if I try to add a string to a number like this, it's going to say type error. So that is because you're trying to concatenate. Concatenate basically means put together a string and an integer, right? So even in the English language, I can't ask you to add a plus 12. Alright. So for Python, it looks at this as a string. It doesn't care if it's 12 or not. Okay. So that is where your type error comes in. Similarly, you have value error, and which is thrown to you when a function's argument is of inappropriate types. Alright. So like if I say integer xyz, Now evidently XYZ is not a number, right? And I hit enter. You're seeing value error. So this is where value error comes in. Alright. Then comes name error. So if I've declared or I'm trying to declare a variable which doesn't exist. So like if I write age, you're seeing name error. Name age is not defined. Okay. So we declared IT here, right? So if I write IT, it's saying that it's a list operator. Alright. A list iterator, sorry. Then similarly, if I try to write another value which I've taken up over here like L, enter, it's saying that L has these inside it. So when I try to ask it for something it doesn't have like A or B, that's when you get a name error. So a variable which doesn't have any value that you have declared or a variable that you haven't declared is basically your name error. Similarly comes your zero division error, which is if you try to do x is equal to 100 divided by 0. Obviously this is going to be infinity, right? So if I do this, it's saying zero division error, which basically means you're trying to divide something by 0 and you're obviously not going to get that. Okay. Then you have a keyboard interrupt error. Okay. This is the last type of error, which is commonly something that you could come across. The keyboard interrupt error is basically something that is thrown when the user hits the interrupt key. So like normally it's Control and C, and that is when it's executing a program. Alright. So like if I try name is equal to input. Alright. So I'm trying to ask Python to ask me my name. Alright. And once I do this, okay, sorry, name input is not defined. Alright. So that's because I wrote IMPUT. Input. So it's asking me for my name. Alright. So if I'm trying to hit Control C, so as you can see, it's giving me a keyboard interrupt error. So I hit Control C, nothing came up on screen, but as soon as I hit enter, it said keyboard interrupt error. Alright. So these are some of the errors that you could come across while you're trying to code, and these are most commonly attained error. There are many other errors actually, like attribute error, EOF error, which is the end of file condition error. So there are many errors actually. Memory error, not implemented error, OS type of error, overflow error, reference error. But these are some of the types that you could commonly come across. And obviously, while we are coding too, and while we are practicing our codings and exercises, we'll make sure that if any type of error comes, that I will try and clear that out for you then and there itself. So that will be in case something comes that's not of these types. Alright. So, but one thing you should keep in mind is that Python is there to support you more than I am, because as you can see, it's kind of already listed with a certain type of error, and it'll tell you what type of error or what type of issue your code has. Alright. So there's no need to worry, because whatever type of error comes, either you can go through our course and check for it, and if that doesn't work for you, what you can do is just Google the type of error that there is, and you will find what the issue is. Simple as that. Alright. So that's it for the common types of errors that you can come across in Python. So I'll see you in the next lecture, but I guess before that we're going to be going through some assignments that I want you to complete. It'll be simple assignments, but complete those assignments and then you can move on to the next module, where we'll be studying about variables and names. Alright. So once again, thank you for your attention. Bye-bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last lecture, we covered the different types of errors. But however, I wanted to show you one thing which I know wouldn't be a part of that, and it couldn't be there. So that was the indentation error. So what that is that if, for example, I try to say if 5 is greater than 3, you're seeing the space that occurs. So this space is basically called as an indentation. So an indentation separates a block of code in Python. Alright, so when I write print, and in here, hello, and Control Shift F10, as you can see, we have hello that's getting printed. But if I remove these spaces, and I run this, it's giving me the indentation error. So it needs to have an indentation. So if I give one space bar here and I print it, that will also work. So the number of spaces you give is completely up to the programmer. However, within a certain block of code, like in this if condition, everything I write after this is basically one single block. So in this I have to write the next one also over here itself. Alright, so here I can't have split words, so split spaces. So as you can see here it's printing hello world, but the minute I add another space over here and I try to print this, I'm getting an indentation error. Alright, so that was indentation error. And now without further ado, let's head into variables. So variables are basically a container for storing data value. Alright, so Python has no particular command or anything for declaring a variable. It's simply assigned the moment you assign a value to it. So when I say x is equal to 5, that's it. A variable x has been declared. Similarly, if I say y is equal to John, that's it. A variable is done. Alright, and if I print this, alright, Control Shift F10, there you can see 5 and John. Alright, so this is how you can create variables. Alright, so you don't need to declare a certain type of a variable also. So if you noticed here, John is basically a string type of variable, whereas 5 is basically an integer. Alright, so I didn't really declare any certain type and it automatically took it in. Okay, so now looking at the next part, if you give x is equal to 5 and then you say x is equal to John, and if I try to print x, Control Shift F10, you see John is now the value of x. So whatever is the last declared value of x, that value gets stored as the value that it carries. Okay, so now x is equal to 5, F10, you can see 5 is getting printed. When I write x is equal to John and I print this, it shows me John. Okay, so it changes its type also. So this was an integer type of a variable and then it became a string type variable, but it didn't really have a problem with that. Okay, then comes casting, which is something that you can do where you check the data type. Okay, or basically you're casting the data type. So in this scenario, when x is equal to 5, let's also write y is equal to 5, z is equal to 5. Now here I want to convert x to a string. So when I want to convert x to a string, I'll write str and I'll put 5 in a bracket. Similarly, if I want to convert this to an integer, I'll just do this, and if I want to convert it to a float, I'll do this. Now if you print x, print y and print z, there you go. So in this case, this 5 is basically a string, this 5 is basically your integer, and this 5 is basically your float. Alright, so if you want to see the type and you don't trust me, then we can check the type for it. So again, we'll use the print type function, and in that we'll have x, and let me copy this and change this to y and this to z. There you go. As you can see, it's showing you that the first one, which is x, is string, y is an integer type of class, and z is a float type of class. Alright, so we saw how to declare a string by just giving a variable and using double inverted commas and writing what you need. Similarly, you can also declare a string by just giving a single inverted comma or basically a single quote and writing what you need inside it. So John again, and if we try to print this, there you go, John comes in both. So basically both of them are strings. Another important thing about variables is that if I write x is equal to 4 and here I write capital X is equal to 6. This value of x, which is 4, does not change to 6 because these are two separate variables. Let me change them to a, in fact, because x almost looks the same. Alright, so there we go. So if I try to print a, as you can see, it's 4. And if I try to print capital A, it's 6. Alright, so basically what I want to highlight over here is that variables are basically case sensitive. Alright, then comes variable names. So when I say variable names, this letter A is basically the name of a variable. Alright, so you can assign whatever you want, right? There are certain rules that needs to be maintained. So a variable can have a short name, alright, so like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever you need, or a more descriptive name like age, car name, or total volume. These are certain variables that you can declare, okay? But there are certain rules in this as well. So a variable must start with a letter or the underscore. So you can use an underscore and then start the name of variable. Alright, you can do this, or you can also start with a letter as we saw. But one thing to keep in mind is that a variable cannot start with a number. Okay, so you can have it being a1 2 6 7 8 whatever you need, a f g g f f equals to 5, and you try to print a1 2 whatever it is, you'll get the value as 5. But you can't do this in the other way. So you can't say 2af whatever equals to 5. So you're seeing it's already giving you this over here, right? But if you even try to print it, see what's gonna happen. It's giving you a syntax error. Syntax error, why? Because you cannot start the name of variable with a number. Okay, has to be like this only. So another thing is it can only contain alphanumeric characters. So alphanumeric being letters from A to Z and numbers from 0 to 9, or it can contain underscore. So these are the only three things it can contain. Okay, so a variable can contain letters, numbers, and lastly your underscores. That's it. You cannot use anything else. No dollar signs, no rupee sign, nothing. And the next thing to remember is that variables are also case sensitive, which we saw when we saw that small a versus capital A have different values. Okay, so that's how you work with variable names. Another thing is assigning multiple values. So if you want to assign multiple variables with multiple different values, you can do that as well. So if I wanted to write 3 variables, a, b, c, or let's write like this: a is equal to apple, b is equal to ball, c is equal to, I'm back in kindergarten, cat. And now if I try to print these for a, print this for b, and I'll print the same thing for c. Let's just remove all of these and print. You're seeing apple, ball, and cat. Alright, so this was a little too messy because there were too many variables to declare, but at the same time I declared them in 3 separate lines, right? But you can also do this. You can just have the name of your variable like x, y, z, like this, right, equals to, and write what they stand for. So if x is bananas, and then you write a comma here, declare the next part, which is, let's say, cherry, and the last part, which is oranges. So when I've given it this way and I try to print this, and p tab z, alright, so if I try to print this, there you go, you have bananas, cherries, and oranges. Let me just comment this entire part out. Okay, so now when we try and print this, as you can see, It's bananas, cherry and oranges. So automatically the value of x got set as banana, y got set as cherry and z got set as oranges. Okay, so that's how you assign multiple values to variables. Similarly, you can also assign multiple variables to one value. So if x, y and z, all of them were oranges, so you can write x is equal to y is equal to z, which equals to oranges. Okay, and now when you try to print x, y, z, there you go. All of them give you the value of x, y and z as oranges. Okay, so I hope you've understood this. This was almost everything in regards to variables and what names you give for them and the different rules that need to be followed while you assign variables and give it a name. Alright, so we'll see you in the next lecture, and in the next lecture we're basically going to be covering strings and the basics of all the strings. Okay, so I'll see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we're going to have a look at the basics in strings. Alright, so what are strings? Firstly, strings are basically declared in Python, as you saw, with either a single quotation mark or a double quotation mark. Like this over here is a string. This can be declared with double quotes or single quotes. Alright, and if I try to print this, again the values show up as oranges itself. So if you don't believe me, let me just shut this and do it again, and there you go, oranges. Alright, so this was how you create a string. Now you can assign a string to a variable, which we saw over here, right? And you can also assign multi-line strings. So when I say multi-line strings, I can say x is equal to, and we saw the command for multi-line, which is this, right? Oranges are orange in color, and double inverted commas, but 3 of them. Alright, so this is basically a multi-line string. So when you print this, Control Shift F10, as you can see, the same way you've written it down here, it appears over here. So this was a multi-line string. All you got to do is use 3 double quotes or 3 single quotes. Okay, so that will also work for you. Doesn't have to be double quotes only, can be single quotes as well. Right, so printing this will also give you the same result. Okay, so one thing I want to let you know is that a string in Python is basically an array. So when I say that, if I write hello world, alright, so when I write this entire thing is actually an array in Python, right? So many other, like every other popular programming language, strings in Python are arrays that represent a Unicode character. So Python does not really have a character data type, and a single character is simply a string with a length of 1. Alright, so you can access any character inside this, or you can access any element inside this string by using square brackets. So if I try to print the position, now for example, in this case h is the 0th position, e is the first, then this is l is second, third, fourth, comma is fifth, space is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. Okay, so if you want to print hello's h, so if I write print x with the square bracket and 0 and I run this, as you can see, h got printed. Let's just remove this out, it's quite disturbing up there. If I change this value to 10 and print, L got printed. Alright, so that's the L from here. Okay, so this is how you work with a certain string and you access a certain string inside it. Similarly, you can also loop through a string. You'll be seeing looping later on, but just try to understand what I mean to say. or let's say for A in X, which is our hello world, print A. So as you can see over here, now I'll remove this and let's do it again, right? Look what happens down here when I hit Control Shift F10. So as you can see, it looped through the entire hello, comma, space, and then the world by doing this. Alright, so this is how you can loop through a string. So like we talked about it, string is basically an array, and if it is an array, we can loop through each character by using a for loop. Similarly, you can also check the length of a string. So to check the length of a string, all you got to do is print len, which is the length function, and state the length of which string you want to check. So once I print this, as you can see, the length of our string is 13. So each character would represent one certain element. So like that, we have 13 as the length of our string. You can also check for a certain value inside a string, and to do that, all you got to do is print, right, and use the in function. So now we know that in the word hello world, let's add something else, hello from the world. Alright, so if you want to check if a certain text is present inside X, like if I want to check if the is present inside this, so I'll write the in X. So when I write this and I run it, as you can see, it's giving me a boolean value. When I say boolean, that means either true or false, 1 or 0. Alright, so here saying true, that means it's true that the word the is present in X. So if you try another word like and print this, it's saying false. Okay, so that's how you can check if something is there in a string or not. You can also use the if function, but I don't want to go into if, else and all of that because you'll get confused if you've not been introduced to them earlier. Alright, so that comes in strings. Similarly, you can also slice a string. So when I say slice a string, you can take a certain part of the string and print only that. So when in this function print, if I use X, you saw how we could get a certain value, right? So when we wrote 0, we got the value H. So similarly, if I wanted everything to print the characters from position 2 to 5, I just have to write that I wanted to print from 2, and then I have to use this, which is the column, and 5. And then I hit Control Shift F10. LLO got printed. So 0 was H, 1 is E, 2 is L, 3, 4 and 5. So these got printed. Alright, this is slicing basically, and this is how you can print a certain value. So if you want everything to get printed until the 5th part from the start, you just have to leave this blank like this. That's it, and print, and there you go, it printed hello. Alright, so similarly you can do this till the end as well. So if I delete this and I say I want everything to get printed from the second to the end, so for the end I'll just leave this blank, F10 or Control Shift F10, and there you go, everything from the second position got printed till the end. Similarly, you have negative indexing. So if you want to get the characters from O over here inside world, which is the negative 5th position, so this is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Now from here you wanted to print till D. Alright, and D is what? The -2 position. Alright, then what you can do, you can write -5 to -2. So what this will do is it'll print from the -5th position, which is again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is O, and it will print till the -2nd position. So 1, 2. It won't print the second one, but until then. So it will print the -5th to -2nd, which is ORL. So let's try this out. There you go. It's printing ORL for us. Alright. Similarly, you can modify a string as well. So to modify a string, very simple, it is in lowercase. Then you can also, so when I say remove white spaces, hello space add a strip. So this white space got removed when I use the strip command, right? Again, there you go. Got it? Now, moving on, you can also replace a certain string. So again, it will be X, which is the variable in which the string is stored, full stop or dot, replace. And what do you want to replace? So suppose I want to replace the H in a string, capital H in a string with Y. Alright. So we basically want yellow world. Alright. So if I print this, there you go. It's yellow with the wrong spelling world. So that's how you can replace a string. Similarly, you can also split a string, and you can do many things actually. But when I say split a string, you can split a string by using a certain character. So I can split this, and what it will use to split, you have to give. So suppose I wanted to split it by using commas. So there's one comma over here, and wherever there's a comma, it will split the word. So look at the result now. F10. There you go. So hello became one word, and then the space bar along with world became another side. Got it? So that is how you split. And finally, the last part of this is concatenation between strings. So in order to concatenate a string, all you got to do is first declare a string, and let's declare world in the next one. And all I got to do is print A plus B. There you go. You're seeing it as hello world. Now if I wanted a space in between, all I got to do is with a space and a plus. And now when I print this, you have the space in here. Alright. So this was everything. That was the basic of strings. Alright. So there are a lot of things inside strings. What I would recommend is that you guys Google and study two things inside strings, which is the string methods. So where you saw lower, a dot lower, or x dot lower, x dot upper, x dot split, like that, there are many more. So there's capitalize, case, fold, center, count, encode, and so on. So there are a lot of them actually. I can't really say all of them in just one lecture. So I want you to study string methods. So Google string methods, and the next thing I want you to Google is escape characters. So I can check if you've Googled it or not and studied it or not, because it's going to be a thing that's going to be coming in your assignments. So if you pass your assignments, you'll know that I'll also know that if you've done it or not. Alright. So sorry about the trouble, but it's for your good only. So I'll see you in the next lecture, and in the next lecture, we're going to be covering the conditional statements. So if, else, and so on. Alright. So see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at conditional statements. So when I say conditional statements, they state a certain condition, and if the condition is not fulfilled, something else needs to happen. So they work along with your operational or your logical conditions from maths. So like for example, A equals to B. This basically means A equals B. Alright. So then there's A does not equals to B. Then there's A less than B. Then there's A less than or equal to B. Then there's A greater than B. And there's A greater than or equal to B. Alright, so these are logical operations. And what they basically mean is A is equal to B, A does not equal to B, A is less than B. Similarly, you can have A is greater than B. Similarly, you have A is less than or equal to B, A greater than or equal to B, and A is greater than B. So your if conditions work with these. So if you write A is equal to 33, B is equal to 200, and you write if A is greater than B, you have to write colon, enter, and like I said, indentations. Never forget the indentations. Alright. Print A is greater than B. Control Shift F10. Alright, so nothing's printing over here. So that is because A is not greater than B. So let's just change this. Alright, so Control Shift F10. Alright, so there you can see A is greater than B. So in this basically we tried, if this is occurring, then print this. So we gotta tell the system also what to do if it doesn't do that, right? So in our situation, when we did this, A is greater than B, and we run this code, it didn't run anything. That is because there is nothing else to do. If this is true, then do this. But if it isn't, we didn't say anything. So that is where you write else. Okay. So if A is greater than B, print A is greater than B. Else, and then you'll write column print. Let me just copy this from here. Else print B is greater than A. So Control Shift F10, and there you go. We have B is greater than A. This was if and if not, then else. Similarly, you have else if. So there could be like a third condition, right? So if A is 33, B is also 33, right? And if A is greater than B, print this, right? And if A is not greater than B, it will print this. But in this case, it is equal to, right? So in this case, what you'll do, we can write ELIF, which is else if A equals to B, print A and B are equal. Got it? So Control Shift F10, and it runs this. Got it? So in the elif keyword, it's Python's way of saying if the previous condition is not true, or the previous conditions were not true, then try this condition. Simple. That's it. Alright, so this was very simple, right? So if you want to write this entire piece of code a little more cleanly, what you can do is you can write it like this. So this is how you write it in a little shorthand. So you write if A greater than B, print A is greater than B, and run. Alright, so if that doesn't work, you can also try else on it. So in this case, it's not working like this, right? So let's just see if we change this. Alright, so run this. It's equal, sorry. Run. There you go. A is greater than B. So if you want to do the same thing with an if else condition, what you'll do is you'll write print A is greater than B if A is greater than B. Else print B is greater than A. There you go. Showing us B is greater than A. So if it wasn't, like I'll make this 333 and run, then you get A is greater than B. Alright. So that was a simple example. You can also try an AND condition where you can say if something and something along with AND. So if there is a value C and C is equal to 500. Okay. So here you can give if A is greater than B and C is greater than A, then what it should do. So that is also something you can do. So print, let's just keep it simple, and print A. Else print B. Control Shift F10. There you go. It's printing B because both these conditions don't match. So if both the conditions don't match, it is going to try and check if A is greater than B. It checked here and it saw that it isn't. Then it checked if C is greater than A. C is greater than A, but this is not matching, so it didn't print this. which is print A, it printed the else condition, which is print B. Now, there's another thing called OR. So if A is greater than B or this, so either of this condition gets matched, then it will print this, otherwise it will print this. So let's run this. There you go. It's printing A, because in this case, A is not greater than B. So this is false, but C is greater than A. So even if one of these two conditions match, it will print this one. Okay. So that's it for conditional statements. Try these out, practice them, only then you'll be able to grasp the idea much better. Alright? Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at functions in Python. So a function is very simply a block of code which only will run when you call for it. Alright? So let's try and see what this means. So you need to define a function by using the def keyword. So when you write def and you define a function, let's call it the trial function. Alright, and you leave brackets like this with a colon, and here you gotta write what's gonna happen if this function is called. So if this function is called, we wanted to print hello world. Alright, so this is how you create a function. Alright, so once you've created a function, you gotta call for a function. So to call for a function, you write the name of the function. Alright, so here you can see trial function is coming, and if I haven't told this to you earlier, to select it you can either hit enter or tab. Alright, so I'll hit tab. So you gotta name the function or use the function's name followed by parenthesis. Alright, and run. So when I run it, here hello world got executed. So if I remove this, which is the call function, and run it, nothing will come. Alright, so you need to have the function's name with parentheses in it. Okay, so another thing is you can pass an argument inside it. So information can be passed inside this function as arguments. So what I mean by that is, if for example, I'll keep this print x plus space plus y. Alright, and I basically want, okay, let's just keep it as x plus world. I'll not go into double functions now. Let's go into single functions itself. And we want that a trial function should get defined with x in it. And this x that you give over here will get placed into this. So this is something called as functional programming, which you're going to enjoy a lot. So when the value of x is passed, you will print whatever x is plus world. Alright, so if we write into this, or basically when we want to execute this inside trial function, I can't just simply run the code because it will give me a type error. Okay, because it's missing one required positional argument. So here I need to define what is x. So I will write yellow. Alright, and let's run this now. So as you can see, it's running yellow world. So if I want a space, I'll just add this and run. There we go. So that is how you pass an argument through a function. Okay, so you can pass these into your parentheses that you use to define your function. So you can change this as well. It doesn't have to be yellow only. You can say whatever you want, and you don't have to stick to colors like I am. And there you go. You have black world. Alright. So there are two things I want to discuss with you. Parameters and arguments. Both can be used for the same thing. Information is passed through both of them. Alright. But from the perspective of a function, a parameter is the variable that is listed inside the parenthesis in the function defined. Alright. So you're defining a function here and this variable passed through it. This is basically the parameter. Alright. But when you call for this function, what you pass through it, this is the argument. Alright. So remember this. When you define a function, what you pass through it is a parameter. When you call a function, what you pass through it is an argument. Okay. So you can pass a number of arguments as well. Like I said, that was multi-arguments. in the previous one we used x, but here I'm going to add y, and up here all I got to do is write comma y. Okay, and now when I call for my function, here I'll have to mention automatically taking the value for x, and then I'll write y, which I'll call as world. Alright, or let's just write something else because there's too much colors in this world. So let's go with black bear. Alright, and now let's run this. So as you can see, black bear got executed because we passed into our function two parameters, x and y, and we said that we want trial function to print x, whichever I give first, and a space with y, whichever I give as a second argument. Alright, so that is why when I called for trial function, I gave the first argument as black, which got set in the position of x, then a space was added in between, which is this space you're seeing here, and then bear got added in place of y. Alright, and the three strings got concatenated. Alright, so one thing, like I told you earlier, is that if you have two functions that are given, or even one function, but you don't mention them here, or you even reduce this number of functions by 1. So as you can see here, there are two parameters, but I've given only one argument, right? So y has no value that I've provided. So when you do this, you will get an error. So just doing that once again, so you remember that it's a type error and there is no positional argument given for y. Alright, so this is functions and how you use them in Python. Alright, so play around with them, learn more about them, because there's a lot inside this that you can work with and you'll have a lot of fun with it as well. Alright, so I'll see you in the next lecture, and in the next lecture we're basically going to be learning our looping statements, which is for loop and while loop. Alright, so see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to have a look at the looping functions that are available. So we're going to look at for loop and while loop. So the for loop is basically used to iterate over a sequence. So when I say a sequence, it would be a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. So you'll see list, tuples and dictionaries later, but let's just try and understand what this is. So if I have a set of numbers, okay, and that's a list basically, and let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 67, 89, 100. Alright, and now I use the for loop. So for x in numbers, I want it to print x. Control Shift F10, and there you go. So it first printed 1, right? It traveled through this list, first printed 1. After 1, it went again and printed 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and like that you're seeing all these numbers printed in over here. So this is how you make use of the for loop. Alright, and this same way you can also loop through a string. So when I say you can loop through a string, you can write a variable x which has a string. You've seen this earlier as well, but I'm just trying to show it to you once again. So for x that has the value fruits, let's say for a in x, print a. Control Shift F10, and there you go. Each letter has been printed individually and then it breaks in. Alright, now comes the break statement. So there's something called as the break statement where you can stop the loop before everything gets covered into it. Alright, so similarly how we had numbers, let me just hit Control Z and see if we can go back. Awesome. So over here for x in numbers, you wanted to print x so that it loops through the entire thing and prints each and every number. So if you wanted to stop at a certain point, like for example, you want to stop it once it reaches 5. Okay, so you can use an if condition here and say if x, which is the number that is being looped, equals to 5. Then you want it to break. So break is where it'll break through the loop. So Control Shift F10, and there you go. It printed it till 5, and when the value of 5 became equal to x, it used the break function or the break statement to stop. So let's try this again with 89. Alright, Control Shift F10, and there you go. It stopped it at 89. So the value has to be present. So if I try 98 and F10, you're seeing it printed everything, even the 100. So it's not like it is going through one number, it's going through this list. Alright, so that is the break statement. Then comes the continue statement. So the continue statement, with the continue statement, you can basically stop the loop and continue with the next part of it. Alright, so when I say that, in the same thing itself, when x is in numbers, you want it to first check if x is equal to, let's say, 4. And once it is equal to 4, you want it to continue. And what you wanted to continue? You wanted to continue to print x. So what it will do is, it will go through this list. It will look for the condition where x will be equal to 4. And once x is equal to 4, it will then continue printing. So Control Shift F10. There you can see what it did. It printed it till 3, skipped 4, and then print the rest of it. Alright, so this is where you stopped the iteration till 3, then skipped 4 or continue, pass through 4, and then move to the next part. Okay. Similarly, you have for x in, and this is the keyword range. So the range function is basically something that will return to you a sequence of numbers. Okay, and it will start from 0 by default. If you write a range of 0 to 100, say, for example, and you wanted it to, never forget the column, print x F10, there you go. See how it's printing everything from 0 all the way till 100. So that is where the range command comes in. So the range command by default takes it in from 0. But if you don't want it to take it from 0, then what you can do is, you can add a value in here. So if I say 40, 100, okay, and Control Shift F10, notice that it will start from 40 and it will end at 99. So why 99 and not 100? That is because the loop will run through, but it will stop at 99. So you've given 100, so it will stop at 99. Similarly, if you gave 50, it would stop at 49. Alright, so it won't print the last number. Okay. So I hope you've understood this. Then comes the while loop. So Python basically has only two loops in it, which are the primitive loops. It's while and for. So the while loop will let you execute a set of statements while it is true. That's it. So if I is equal to 1, while I is less than 6, you want it to print I. And you also want I to be incremented by 1. Okay. So what this will do is, it will print 1 for the value of I, and it will keep increasing it till it is less than 6. And when it is less than 6, it will stop printing. So Control Shift and F10, and there you go. It printed it till 5 and then it stopped. Okay. So this was a while statement. Similarly, you can also have a break in this as well, where again, while it is less than 6, you want it to print I, but if I will become equal to 3, you want it to break. Again, we're going to have the increment value here, and Control Shift F10. There you go. So we wanted a while statement in which the I is value is less than 6, and you wanted it to continuously print I till I is less than 6. But as soon as I reaches the value of 3, it breaks your loop. So your loop gets stopped, similar to what we did in for loop. And again in this too you have the continue statement, where if I is equal to 3, we wanted to continue. So it will just print it till 2, and when it reaches 3 it will continue and print 4, 5 and 6. 4 and 5, sorry. So Control Shift F10. Okay, we're in a continuous loop. So let's stop this. Alright, so that's because I added this over here, which made me go into a permanent loop. So here I wanted to do I plus 1. Alright, and then if I is equal to 3, you continue, and then you continue to print I. Control Shift F10. There you go. So the value of I kept incrementing, and first it is already 1, and then it passed through this loop where it incremented, became 2, got printed, then it reached 3 where it just skipped it, then 4, 5 and 6 came in. Alright. So this was the continue statement with while, and that is it for your for and while loop. What I've given to you is a very basic example, and this is only so that you can understand the for and while loops better. So they're a fun topic to play with though. Anyway, I'll see you in the next lecture, and in the next lecture we'll be looking at functions as arguments. Alright, so another functional programming part of it, and we'll enjoy that. So see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we're going to have a look at functions as arguments. Alright, so we already saw how we can define a function, and when you define a certain function like this, we passed parameters through it, right? So we wrote x and y, and then we wanted it to do this. We wanted it to print x plus space plus y. And in this, when you called for the trial function, in our case, and defined the first part to be hello and the next part to be world, and when you run this, alright, so no column here, and when you run this, you get hello world. Alright, so what this function does is, it wants you to give x and y. So when you give x as hello and y as world, x, which is hello, gets placed over here, the space comes in, and world, which is y, gets placed over here. Then your final output comes out to be hello with the space and world. Alright, so in functions as parameters, instead of passing a certain value like this, you're going to pass another function through it. Alright, so when I say this, what I mean is, suppose we have a list, okay, and this list consists of certain items. Let's say car, bus, bike, scooter. Alright, and if I define a function loop, okay, and in this I wanted to get the value x, and I want this function to print x 3 times. Okay, so very simply put, anything that gets passed into this function will print x thrice. Okay, so if I call for loop, and inside loop if I pass list, which is this thing, and I run this, okay, I keep forgetting the columns, and I run this, there you go. You have car, bus, bike and scooter, which is the first part, then car, bus, bike and scooter again, which is the second time, and car, bus, bike and scooter again, which is the third time. So whatever passed through this loop got printed thrice. Okay, but now we'll define another function. We'll call it a map function, or a map simple function. So inside this I'm going to pass 2 parameters. So let's pass 2 parameters. First will be crazy and the next will be list. Okay, so what I wanted to do is that for items that are in this list of ours, we wanted to perform a crazy, which is this parameter here, but for items. Let's use this function map, simple, and inside this we'll pass this function, which is the loop function. Okay, so loop gets placed into crazy. Alright, and then we're also passing list. So let me first run this and show you what happens. Okay, so my famous column mistake. There you go. So if you're seeing, what it's doing is it's passing car into it, printing it thrice, then bus thrice, bike thrice, and scooter thrice. So if you notice the difference, what's actually happening is in this function, crazy is being given loop. But loop is basically this function. So instead of crazy, loop comes in. But loop requires a certain value. So loop comes here, and instead of X, which is for loop, items comes in. And as you know, the for loop will iterate through the items. So what happens is, when this function is called, okay, a list occurs. And for items in list, so first item in list is car. So car comes in here. So for car in list, crazy, which is loop, will print car thrice. So it prints car thrice, and then the for loop occurs again for the next item in the list, which is bus, and bus gets printed thrice. Then bike comes in, and bike gets printed thrice. Then scooter comes in, and scooter gets printed thrice. So this is a very simple example of a functional programming paradigm, but you'll enjoy a lot in this. So this is functions as arguments. Alright. So that's it for this lecture. And in the next one, we're going to have a look at list, tuples, and dictionary. So we saw this, which is a list, but we're going to learn what is a list, what is a tuple, a dictionary, and how you can create them, and what are the differences between them. Alright. So I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at list, tuples, and dictionary. Alright. So lists are basically used to store multiple items in a single variable. Alright. So in Python, you have 4 types of data which can be used to store collections of data. Alright. So those are list, tuple, dictionary, and set. Okay. So we're going to have a look at list, tuples, and dictionary. So let's see how you create a list. So to create a list, you need a variable. Alright. So list, and you need values inside it. So these values can be strings, or it could be a number, which can be float, integer, whatever you need, or it can be a boolean value as well. Alright. So as you can see, here I've created a list with strings, integers, float, and boolean. Okay. So this is how you create a list. So let's see how a list looks now. So let's print this. Alright. So as you can see, we have car, bike, 30, 40, 3.0, and true. So this is what a list is. So main thing to remember that when you make a list, you need to use the square brackets. Alright. So the square brackets create a list. One thing to remember about the list is that lists are ordered, changeable, and allow duplicates. So when I say this, what do I mean? When I say ordered, that means each item in the list has a defined order. So this is the 0th item. This is the first item, second, third, fourth, and fifth item. Alright. So this will remain the way it is. And if you add a certain item, it will get added after this. So at the end of the list. Okay. Then comes changeable. So what that means is that I can change the value of bike to something else if I want to. Okay. And then it allows duplicates. So I can also add another bike value here, and it will not raise any error. So Control Shift F10. And as you can see, bike is coming up over here. Right. So this is what we mean when we say that lists are ordered, changeable, and allow duplicate. So if you want to print the length of your list, all you got to do is write print length of list and run this. So as you can see, it's saying 7 and it will tell you how many items are there in your list. So in this you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay. So that's how you print the length of your list. You can check the type of your list as well by using print type of list. There you go. So the class is list. Alright. So this is what was there in list. So how do you access items in the list? So as I told you that they are ordered and this is the 0th position. So if you want to get a certain item in the list, all you got to do 3rd, 4th and 5th item. So if you want the 3rd, 4th and 5th item to get print, then 5th item. So if you want the 3rd, 4th and 5th item to get print, or you don't want any other item to get print. So all you got to state is which item you want. So in our case, we want the 3rd, but the 3rd's index position is 0, 1 and 2. So you wanted to print from the 2nd to the 5th because you wanted to print 3.0 as well. So this is all you got to do. You got to write the range in which you mentioned 2 is to 5. Okay. So Control Shift F10 and there you go. It's printing for us 30, 40 and 3.0. So similar to the earlier way, if you remove this, it will print everything from the start until the 5th value. And the reverse way, if you leave the other side of it blank, it will print everything from the 2nd till the end. Okay. So 0, 1 and 2, it's printing 30, 40, 3.0, true and bike. Okay. So this was everything in regards to accessing list items. So I also told you that the items can be changed, right? So in this list, again, since they are ordered, we can make use of the index positions that are present in them and change the value. So we can state that inside list, the second position. So our second position is 0, 1 and 2, 30. I want to change the value of the second position to, and you enter what you want. So suppose I want to change it to a string which says scooters. Alright. And if I now print my list, there you go. We have car, bike, scooters. So basically 30 got changed to scooters. Got it? So that's how you change the values inside it. So similarly, you can also use this more efficiently to change a range. So suppose you want to change everything from the first to the 3rd item, and you want the first item to the 3rd item to become scooters and let's say watermelon. So you use the square brackets. Okay. So when you're saying you want the first to 3rd, you mean 0 first, but your 2nd and your 3rd, and you want to change those values, right? So you want to change the value of the first item, which is bike. So 0 and 1. This is the first item, bike. So bike will get changed to scooters. And then you also want to change the next one, which is 30. And you want to change 30 to watermelons. Alright. So you shut it with the square bracket. And now when you print the list, there you go. As you can see, now we have cars, scooters, watermelons, 40, 3.0, true and bike. So bike and 30 changed to scooters and watermelon. Bike being the first position and it skips the 3rd one but creates everything before it. So the next one was 30. So 30 got replaced with watermelons. Alright. So that's how you change your range of items. Similarly, you can also insert items, and in order to insert items, you'll use the insert command. That's it. So all you got to do is write list dot insert. Okay. And then where you want to insert it. So for example, if you want to insert a certain item as the next element. Okay. So if I want to insert the 3rd element as, let's say, cars. Or we already use car, so let's use Jeep. And you print this list. There you go. So we have car and bike and 30, which is 0, 1, 2. And since we inserted in the 3rd position, in the 3rd position we have Jeep. And now 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th becomes 40, 30, true and bike. Okay. So this is how you can insert it in a certain position. Alright. So that was how you insert items. Similarly, you can also add items to this by using the append command. Alright. So insert is when you want to insert it into a certain position but append is when you want to add it to the end of it. So for that, simple list dot append, and then what you want to add. So if I want to add, let's say oranges. Okay, so what will happen is oranges will get added after bike. So Control Shift F10, and there you go. After bike we have oranges. Okay, so that's how you add to a list. Now the next thing you got to learn about is tuples. So similar to how we worked with list, we have tuples which also store value, but instead of using a square bracket like this, we have to use a round bracket. Okay, so that's the only difference in terms of how you create a tuple. Okay, again the tuple will also allow you strings, numbers, booleans. Okay, so let's change this to tuple, and let's also tell you what the difference is. So in list, list could be ordered, changeable, and would allow duplicates. However, in tuple the only difference is the values are unchangeable. Okay, so that's the major difference between the two of them. So basically you can't add values, you can't change values like we did for list. Again, in this too, when it's ordered, you have positions as indexes. You can have multiple values, so I can write bike twice as we've already done over here. And now let's print this also to see what we get as a result. There you go, we have our tuple showing up. And if you want to see the type for this one, we have class tuple. Alright, so again you can also check the length for this one by using len, same as list only. There's nothing very different as compared to the previous one. Okay, so one thing I want to show you in tuple is that if you have only one item, so if you want to only keep car in this and you have nothing else, this is not going to work. Okay, so you can't have just one value and no comma in front. So let me just run this and show you. It is showing us that the result is car, but if I try to print the type for this thing, Control Shift F10, see the class is a string, but we haven't declared a string, we want a tuple. So in order to make sure that this stays a tuple, all you got to do is add a comma. So when you add a comma here, now let me run this and then have a look at the change in the class. Control Shift F10, there you go, we now have a tuple class. Okay, so make sure you remember that this is only if you have one item. Okay, again in this too, as I told you before, you can have all data types in them being string, numbers, and boolean. Okay, you don't need to worry about that as well. In this too, you can access values in the tuple. So again, to access values, you'll basically print tuple and then the position of it in square brackets. So if you want the second item to get printed, Control Shift F10, there you go, we have 30 getting printed. So again, if I print the 0th position, you have car getting printed. So if you remember, I told you the first value is the 0th index position, then first index, second index. Alright, and so on. In this too, you can use range like we did before. You can mention that the range is 2 till 5 and print, and it will print only those values. Again, you can have it till the end, or you can have it from the start all the way till the 5th item, like this, same as list. Alright, now there's one thing I want to show you is that, like we already saw, that tuples are unchangeable. So when I say unchangeable, I can't try to append a value, I can't add a value to this, right? So I can't try. Let me first remove these brackets in. Alright, so now let's try and add a value. So you know that in order to add items, we use append, right? So if I try tuple dot append, okay, and then in this I want to append oranges. Okay, so remember, when I say unchangeable, that means you're trying to either change the item, add an item, or do something else with the item, like remove it or not. So if I run this, there you go, we have an attribute error. Tuple has no attribute to append. So you can't really change an item. So there is a workaround here. It's a bit of a lengthy process, but this is just for your information. So if you want to change the value in a tuple, what you can do is declare a variable, okay, and state that this tuple, you can change the tuple to a list basically. So I'll say that this tuple basically becomes a list of tuple. Okay. And then I can state that in Y, the first position, I want to add oranges. And now if I say X is equal to tuple of Y, and then I print X, then see this. Tuple is not callable. Okay. Alright. So we're having an error here because when I'm trying to convert it to a tuple type, it's trying to assume that I'm using this variable. So let's just change this to Z. Okay. And I'll say that this is a list of Z and we want this to be a tuple of Y. Okay. And now let's print X. There you go. So basically what we did is we have a tuple Z which has these values in it. Okay. But you wanted to change the value of bike in tuple to oranges, but that was not possible. So what we did is we declared a variable Y in which we converted this tuple to a list, and lists are changeable, right? So we use the changeable command in the list to add in the first position or replace the value of the first position to oranges. And then what we did is this Y got converted back to a tuple by using another variable. So this variable now stores the value of the tuple X, and now you can print X, which is the new tuple. Alright. So this was a little bit of a lengthy process, I know, but I was just trying to explain to you how you can change the values in a tuple if in case it ever is a requirement for you. Alright.